Some people might say that it's somewhat narcissistic to consider themselves the main character of their own life, but by technicality, we are all protagonists of our own life. We craft our own story as we grow older, and thus, as we craft our story, we run into enemies, and most notably, we call these enemies villains or antagonists, people who are actively trying to stop us. And it's not often that some of us come to realize that the biggest villain in our lives sometimes is ourselves. We might hinder ourselves in a variety of ways and ultimately be our own worst enemy. And thus, when you think about those type of things, it's completely sensible for Photay and Golda May to come together and make a song called Villain, which features that same narrative crux of confronting oneself. And the way that they do it, with Photay making such wonderful, intricate soundscapes already, it feels like a movie as Golda May talks about villain being herself, and then villain being you, looking at herself from the second person, and how this song itself is constructed is so much fun. It feels like there's three different acts instead of songs that sort of give you a starting point and then they add a little bit of luster or a fun little piece or extra little beat, something a little shiny on there. With Photay, what he likes to do is completely shift it, and you think that you know where a Photay song is going until it transforms and has now become something completely different. It's got this tense buildup, and when it finally sort of gives you a bit of release, it switches completely, and yet all of the shifts and transitions within the song feel so natural as Golda May is talking more and more about the villain, because that also helps is when you have a narrative crux. And it's interesting with music like this where there's not many lyrics, with Golda May talking about if I were to push you into the light and if I were to reveal you. Essentially, what I take from that and what I interpret is Golda May not knowing themselves and not being able to, function knowing that they are the villain, and having to address that, having to confront that is one of the hardest things to do in actual life anyway. And as she does this, the song itself ramps up. There's, instead of it feeling like this tense heartbeat, because there's this bass, this synth bass that carries it through that first part, because it's very, again, it's tense, but it's building to something, and it's not till the second part when it shifts and it gets more intense and it racks up and it blows up into this new form. It feels like you're traveling through space, and in the space is a mental space of looking at oneself through a mirror, looking at oneself through maybe a bunch of dimensions. Your imagination can really go wild listening to a Photay song, and it's really entertaining, and I enjoy it immensely. I listened to this song once and was like, I want to listen to this again and again and again. And I really love how there's this constant talk of villain is an I, villain is a you. That's one of the, I want to say that's the hook. Is there really a hook here? It feels more like it's weird. It operates as a bridge at some points, and then it shifts into a hook, and then it becomes this sort of almost not enchanting but hypnotic call that you're listening, and it's focusing you, and you start thinking about it yourself. You become introspective listening to this song. At the very least I do, where it's like villain is an I, villain is a you, villain is an I, villain is you. And at first, in the first part of the song, the very ending, she says villain is a you twice, and I was like, okay. You don't think much of that, and then as the song gets more and more and more intense, and it explodes, and it's actually quite fun. That's the weirdest thing about this. It becomes more and more fun. You think a song called Villain would have a very dark undertone, and It would be grimy, shady, something seedy that would be constant about it. Instead, as the song progresses, instead of it being more of this revealing the bad, evil, ugly, it becomes an acceptance of oneself instrumentally, sonically, and it becomes fun and exciting and vibrant, as though confronting oneself and then ultimately becoming better for it is what this sounds like. Or at least that's what I take from it, is that this is what this sounds like. And it's so good. It's so good. It's so crazy that this is a 3-minute 52-second song, because I thought it felt longer than that, but in a good way. I was like, this is packed into 3 minutes and 52 seconds? Are you serious? Photay is an artist that I just happened to discover randomly cruising through Spotify, as one does, and I'm so glad that I discovered him. And I definitely also want to go check out Golda and a lot of artists that he's worked with. But this is the first song that was new from him that I was able to talk about, and overall, it's immaculate. I love it a lot. I personally would replay this a lot. There is something really cool about songs that take you through different directions, that bring you to different spaces, that feel like a movie, that feel like so many different things happening with them. I really, really appreciate songs like that, because it's really hard to do. And that's not to say that making something catchy and, easy on the ears is also easy to do. Both are incredibly difficult in their own ways. I just really love this song a lot, because I was like, after, going through Photay's discography, I was curious to see if it would hold up here. And it did. It really did. Like, not there. He's one of the artists. He's one of the very few artists, I think, that have songs that don't ever sound the same. He might employ similar sounds, but it never sounds, no single song sounds the same. And that's a testament to how incredible this guy is. Love it. Absolutely magnificent. 3 minutes and 52 seconds. That is how long the song is. But again, it doesn't feel like that. Oh my goodness gracious. I love it. I enjoy it. I like music. Music is great. I hope you like music. I hope music is great for you. Even if you don't like super complex stuff, I implore you to try this. Just chef's kiss. Chef's kiss. Well, this guy says the villain is an ever-changing entity, and we have to be vigilant in countering it. To be vigilant is to realize your own flaws, and instead of mauling yourself for those flaws, finding a way to work with them. Being able to compromise is one of the greatest strengths of all time. It might make you a hero one day. Who knows?